Oh, the bittersweet taste of victory for the Rajasthan Royals. Sweet that they end their campaign, a promising campaign, on a high with a win over the Punjab Kings at Dharamsala to close out the campaign once and truly for Shikhar Dhawan, but bitter to the point that it may be too close a win to give them any realistic hope in spite of needing several teams to do them a favour on the final weekend. We look back though at the finer moments of this game and the more detailed talking points for both franchises, as you could say now. Their IPL has come to an end. This is Visit Saudi presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout. Tom Moody is here. So too is Sanjay Manjrekar, a man who never gets tired of getting the prediction right. And he called it. Rajasthan Royals should win this. At one point we thought, Sanjay, they might make a case when Jaiswal and Hetmeyer were going of actually gunning this total down, boosting the net run rate above RCBs, and maybe we have something exciting in store for us. But what are your first takeaways after that Dhruv Jurel 6? Let me even start with Dhruv Jurel himself, who had such a lovely 4-ball cameo.
Yeah, more pedigree in Dhruv Jurel than some of the others that came into bat before him. So it wasn't any surprise to see him go down to a spinner, hit him straight, because he's like a proper, well-groomed and well-weaned kind of batter and should be always batting up the order. And there are some others that Rajasthan Royals always favour who come before him, but that's another matter. Till Hetmeyer was out there, we've seen strange things happen this IPL. We've seen 30 runs being chased down in the last over. We saw CSK almost getting 40 in 2 overs against Rajasthan Royals. So it was possible at that stage on a small ground. But Sam Curran, the champion that he is, when we come to the final overs, when the pressure is really high, we were talking about what does Sam Curran bring to a team. This is what he brings, bowling these kind of overs with a lot of heart. So the captain is always trusting him to do that job.
Right. The feeling for the Royals, I'm sure, is one of, this is a good team. My God, a dangerous team. When you got Jaiswal batting that way, Hetmeyer, they've got gun bowlers, many of whom have played international cricket. And yet, it seems like for their campaign, this wasn't enough. Now, what are your first takeaways when it comes to summing up the Royals, who, in spite of this win today, haven't really given themselves a chance for the playoffs?
I think they'll be extremely disappointed with their campaign. They had a very good season last season, making a final. It appeared that they were on track to be a team that's going to be dominant in this cycle, this auction cycle. They started the campaign well, and everyone then sort of confirmed their feelings about this side and, the balance of the side and the quality that existed with bat and ball. And then just somehow they fell off the end of the cliff and just were the complete opposite team. Yeah. So it was really a tournament of two halves for them, and I think that reflected a lot with some of their players, and two of their key players in particular, in Butler and Sanju Samson. They had two halves when it comes to their batting, and when it comes to T20 cricket, if you have too many of your top order players, particularly in your top 4, that are failing you, it is very hard to remain competitive, because really that is the main engine room of your batting, whether you're setting totals or you're chasing down totals. You can't constantly rely on people at 5, 6 and 7 to find a total for you or chase down a total for you. So in summary, I just think that it was just far too inconsistent. I think also the injury concerns around Trent Boult during particularly the back half of the tournament plagued them. If he was fit throughout, it would have given them a little bit more consistency of a class bowler, new ball bowler that can offer an over or two at the death.
But in the end, I think death bowling again came to haunt them. Sandeep Sharma had one good game against CSK good game in the sense he prevented 19 runs in the last over, something that he was able to, or 21 that he protected. And then there was that one match where he almost won the game. They started celebrating, and then the horrible siren comes. So those are the close kind of matches that teams will say we were unlucky with those results that happened. But today as well, in this game, you saw 3 40s being scored at a strike rate of 150 and over. And so again, death bowling is something they had no control of. It was too much of a lottery. They bowled Chahal in the 19th, and that continued to be a weakness that was there throughout. Boult is a fantastic bowler, but more with the new ball. He's never been your go-to death bowler.
Yeah.
At least with Punjab, you could say there was a Rabada or a Sam Curran that could go and hope for the best. These guys always had an issue there. So batting, you would think Butler really fell off the cliff.
Yeah.
But there was a Jaiswal that we didn't account for at the start of the season, that he'll have such a brilliant season with the bat. So that was a bonus. So in the end, maybe a little more of a Rinku Singh kind of batters, Jitesh Sharma or a Tilak Verma at number 5, 6, 7 for them. Dhruv Jurel, I think, is one for the future. Spin is fine. Death bowling and Butler falling off the cliff so much.
So let's talk about that. 5 ducks for Josh Butler, including 3 to finish the campaign. I'm almost pinching myself as I say the words, Tom. And it's something we have not seen. He hadn't had a duck in the IPL since 2016 until he had one this year. Now he's had 5. It still doesn't feel like saying, oh, Josh Butler's out of form. He's had a bad season, but he's had a bad season, hasn't he?
Well, when he's talked about, and quite rightly talked about as arguably the best white ball player in the world, he's in that conversation. You don't expect that from a player of that calibre, and he has sort of given you returns to have that conversation that he's up there, right up there as one of the most damaging white ball players. I just wonder, and I think I said this during a show midway through the tournament, that I just sense that this is a fatigue thing for Josh Butler. And if anything, you just wonder whether, because he did the same thing last year.
Yeah.
He went missing for a few games, then came good right towards the end and played a couple of magnificent knocks, to push them through the through the playoffs. I just wonder whether that's something that needs to be addressed, with him, trying to work out how he can manage the mental fatigue so he is fresh, and whether that is there's a break in the middle of the campaign where he has an all-inclusive holiday at the Maldives or whatever it might be. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
And you give him that reset mentally. Physically he's fine, he's as strong as an ox, but just mentally freshen up, and then he comes back with that sparkle in his eye.
I mean, he had 3 half centuries in his first 4 innings, and he had a 95 during what was his slump of 59 balls. So it's hard to say, oh, Josh Butler's out of form, let's drop him and get Joe Root to take his place. You just don't do that with Josh Butler.
Never do that. You carry on like that for another 2 years. But is that just it, mental fatigue, or it's also a case of a personality or a nature of a person who loses confidence and then sort of just drops off? Because we see those kind of champion players that once they have 2 or 3 failures, they sort of, nosedive, and then they're back again. And once the confidence is good, they reach the heights. Because whenever I'm looking at any T20 batter or 50 overs batter, I look at their first class record as well, just to give you an understanding of the foundations, the depth of the batter. And when you see Rinku Singh, he's got a first class average of 59, and that is why you can connect his versatility and how he manages to come out of situations. Butler. Now I'm going to ask Tom.
We are talking about one of the great batters of the world, Sanjay.
Yeah, but we are talking about one format.
Yeah.
And there is a reason why Butler has played 57 test matches and averages 31. And he's played about 200, about 120 first class matches, average of 34. So does that tell you something about the fundamentals and the, because first class numbers and all formats will give you an idea about what's deep inside that particular batter, and as I said, the depth of batting of a particular player. How do you explain an average of 31 of Butler in 50 test matches?
Well, to be honest with you, you look at a lot of county averages of very good players out of England, and they're all in the 30s. This is a test average of 50 test matches, 31. Yeah, and I understand that, and I understand your point. I think,
I'm just asking whether there can be any connection at all,
no, I think,
or it can be a completely different white ball grade.
Can I answer it?
Yeah.
Thanks. The thought I have that comes to mind is maybe when the ball is moving, there is not your typical sort of white ball wicket where it's up and down, there's not a lot of movement. He may be challenged more. Like in Test cricket, it's a thorough examination of your technique and everything else. That's why it's such a beautiful game, because you really are exposed. And I just wonder if the ball is swinging a bit or seaming back in, because we've seen him bowled in LBW quite a few times. He's then a little bit vulnerable, in that situation against the right bowling. But if it's a typical, good wicket that you can just hit straight through the line, there's no one better that can hit the ball out of the ground. So I'm just wondering whether that's the correlation between, his numbers outside of T20 cricket and...
Because he's also got ducks on flat pitches, and there's one way he gets out when he's out of form, is exactly the way he got out today, straight and full. The ball goes through his defense or he gets out leg before. So I would like to think it's more a mind thing, where a batter, when he's riding away with confidence, there's nobody like him. Interesting, another similarity to Surya Kumar Yadav. I mean, brilliant T20 batter, along with Butler, the two of the greatest T20 batters currently, had 3 first ball ducks in 50 overs cricket. So these are strange sort of,
But then added a poor start to this campaign in the...
That happened, and then when they're back, and I don't think Surya Kumar Yadav is like a Butler, but these are just interesting things that happen to the same person.
All right, what about the odd coincidence of Yashasvi Jaiswal having such a good season batting alongside him, where usually Josh Butler is the alpha of the batting team.
He's the apprentice.
First.
Yeah, but possibly, but I don't think he's lasted that long to have that shadow bother him too much.
Oh, maybe not that, but just does it allow him to play a different way, not be as sort of keen to bat as long, any of that could...
I don't think that's the case. Any batter's keen to bat. It's hard to get the bat out of people's hands, when they're playing at any level, if they get the opportunity.
Just amazing what happens in the sport. Is I remember gushing about Butler in the first few innings that he plays. How he would change gears if he lost Samson and Yashasvi Jaiswal early, how he would just sort of take it easy for a little while and get that strike rate from 130 to 200 in no time, just in time for them to put on a match-winning total. And the same guy ended up with 5 ducks.
That's right. Yeah, and your mental fatigue point's an interesting one. And
that's what I think it is.
Whether it also going back to home and away format after 3 years and the rigors of traveling.
It's tiring.
Yeah,
it's tiring, and you know that from a media perspective.
But mental fatigue, it's a pattern we've seen earlier. But anyway, I think we've said
it's about getting back into it. Though. Yeah. You've had 2 or 3 years of it very differently.
But that would be one way to handle, as Tom said. People like Butler, but these are guys that you keep playing because of the magical things they do when they're in form. Yeah.
Very well. So we've had death bowling as well as the form of a number of their key batters. Butler's one, Sampson's another, and maybe a quick word on Sanju Samson. I don't think we can. Is there anything that we need to say that we haven't said already? But even if Samson would have played a match-winning innings today, it would have been so much better. It just doesn't seem to happen as often as Sanju Samson himself and most of his admirers would like. Certainly, given his potential, you'd like to see it happen more.
Well, he tantalises us, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And that's the frustration when you have a player like that. And there's a few around in world cricket that are like that, that when they're on, they're just absolutely gobsmackingly good. You think, wow, this guy should be playing for India and he should be owning that position at number 4 or number 3 or wherever it may be. And then they go missing. And referring back to your conversation around Butler, you look at Samson's back record. Look at his Ranji Trophy record. Look at his, domestic record. There's no substance to it at all.
Yeah, inconsistency also in the limited opportunities that he got for India. But there's one difference I find between Samson of the next generation of T20 batters that we're seeing, that when he's playing well, doesn't matter who the bowler is, the quality of the bowler. And that is the thing to like about him. He can take quality bowling apart when he's, playing well. But unfortunately, it doesn't come often enough.
All right. It might seem like this is a game that Rajasthan have lost, but even though they've won it, fact is that the win seems so small in terms of the fact that this team should have marched into the playoffs a long time before, and it's not going to happen, or it's highly, highly unlikely to happen. I'll check the math, but I think it's already done. But let's have a quick check on a few positives that work for them. And Jaiswal's ended the innings as he started at the promise, or ended the tournament as he started at the promise of what we saw, and that's one to stay, or is the challenge now going to be to back up what was clearly an incredible season, Tom?
This guy's to stay. I'd be very surprised if he's not wearing blue within the next 12 months. As I've said previously, he for me is a 3 format player. and we're talking about huge volume of runs wherever he goes. He scores. His appetite is overwhelming, and that's exactly what you look for. Technically, he looks well organised. He's a better technical player this year than he was last year. He went away and worked on certain areas of his game. He's got an incredibly good work ethic from all accounts. So everything to me is pointing in the right direction for a unbelievable future.
Sanjay.
Yeah, nothing more to add. Perfectly said. And again, I'm going to put in my sort of principle and the formula that I apply to gauge a batter. Excellent first-class numbers. You know, I mean, 19 matches is not a big sample size, but averaging 80 at the moment. And so, but that happens.
Tells you a bit.
Yeah, I mean, you had Sarfaraz Khan coming into this IPL with an average of 70, I think, Ranji average.
Yeah, but he doesn't have the versatility. He doesn't have the game for this format.
So depth. When you look at, who is, we used to say, Lambi Race Ka Ghoda, who seems like he's said, might stay for a longer time. You look at the depth of
a horse
his ability.
for a long race.
Yes.
Depth of batting ability, I think he has it.
A Trojan horse.
Beautiful. A number of things I'll remember this season for. He's got the fastest 50 in IPL cricket. He got his 100, 124, albeit in a losing cause against the Mumbai Indians, but many things going right for Yashasvi Jaiswal. And we can all see it coming at some point, that big international call-up for him. Let's turn over to the Punjab Kings, shall we? And it's, again, an enigma of a season for them. They travelled so well. They won in Chennai, they won in Mumbai, they beat Rajasthan at the time that Rajasthan were peaking early on in Guwahati. They also ended up winning in Lucknow. They won in Ahmedabad. They've effectively been the best travellers of the tournament. And yet, here they stand with what is a very poor record in Mohali. And just, not enough consistency, Tom? Looked a good team even now, doesn't it?
Yeah, huge inconsistency. They didn't seem to ever settle on their overseas combination, which is really important to understand what your best combination is. And you may have a subtle change that according to conditions or your opponent, but not a major change. And they had too many missing parts with form. Shikhar Dhawan had, for his standards, an average IPL. He's normally a 500 locked in every single year. And, he had a indifferent season for his standards. And, the overseas players were very inconsistent.
Yeah. The addition of Sam Curran was the big one because they bought him for a record sum of money, and you felt like, is that the missing piece of the puzzle? But while there's a lot to like about Sam Curran, it's not necessarily been the answer to all of Punjab's problems. Sanjay, fair to say?
Yeah, fair to say. And he's a fantastic cricketer. We were talking off air as well. The thing to like about him is the big heart that he has. He wants to be in that position where the onus is on him to win the game. But ability-wise, he's not a game changer every match. You have some of the spinners like a Rashid Khan. 4 overs is going to change the game for you. And with batting as well, not quite in that same league. So he's somebody who will contribute in both areas. He's somebody who won't let you down when the heat is on. But he needs a couple of other game changers with bat and ball as well. Rabada for a while in the IPL has not got the attention that he must get for the stature that he has.
Yeah, has Rabada been on a bit of a decline in IPL cricket since he made that final for Delhi 3 seasons ago?
Well, it's hard to tell. This year he didn't play a lot, did he? For the majority. So it's very hard for any fast bowler to come in off the bench and suddenly hit their straps running. It's a very different thing. It's a bit like batting as well. Preparing to play and playing. And, he had quite a big stint in the dugout, and, he was far from his best. And, a lot of people, when Delhi Capitals made that decision between Nokia and Rabada, sort of were thinking, oh, that's an interesting one. There was a split decision there publicly, thinking, I thought they would have stuck with Rabada. But as it's turned out, Nokia has maintained a high level of performance and consistency, where Rabada's been a little bit inconsistent with what he's delivered at Punjab.
What do they need? Is it that they have the players, and maybe with Bairstow back and Dhawan with an injury-free season, and Livingston with an injury-free season, they'd be a big threat again going forward? Or is there still something that's missing in this squad with personnel?
Something that is not tangible for us to see. Maybe that is what needs to change, maybe the culture that we've been talking about quite a lot in the show. Because I remember sitting during the live auction on a show and looking at Punjab Kings and saying, wow.
That's a great team.
Yeah, that's a great team on paper. This time as well, I mean, imagine Dhawan getting a lot of runs, Livingston more than 2 innings, firing, and they've got the bowling attack. Rahul Chahar comes in as a leg spinner.
Yeah.
So they've got everything. Maybe a couple of more sort of more reliable batters that now they're in shaky territory where they'll have to stick with Dhawan, the captain, who is not a Dhoni or a Rohit Sharma or a Kane Williamson for that matter. Plus 1 year later as a batter, how much is it going to offer? So they'll have to look at some steady kind of batter that we've been talking about, the first class, more the Jitesh Sharma kinds.
Yeah, their overseas, they didn't quite settle on what their ideal overseas combination was. Yes, they were a bit hamstrung by injury concerns, but between Matthew Short, Rajapaksha, Sikandar Raza, there seemed some confusion game to game, didn't there?
Yeah, and I think those three that you mentioned are, I wouldn't say A-listers when it comes to IPL overseas players. They're good cricketers, don't get me wrong, but they can plug holes, but they're not your first picked. You're not sort of jumping in and saying, well, he's batting 5 or he's batting 1. And I think Bairstow coming back into that side is a significant difference.
Yeah.
You've got a serious match winner there at the top, and Bairstow carries presence as well. So I think when you look at Bairstow, Livingston, Dhawan and Jitesh, you're starting to be a little bit concerned if you're coming up against that side, because you're thinking, you've got a few hurdles to cross here.
I mean, the bowling is quality. There's also Arshdeep, who will have a better season next
the
season.
The Arshdeep thing is a very curious one, who started the season looking like he's going to get the purple cap, and won games in Mumbai under pressure, broke stumps. It seems like Arshdeep's season is coming up, and then there's been this sudden slump, lack of faith shown in him bowling crucial overs. Can you make sense of Arshdeep's situation?
It can be role clarity. Maybe, that last game we talked about, he only bowled 2 overs. He's your premium Indian death bowler, and, why isn't he not bowling and felt like he's an important part of that unit, and we're giving you that responsibility because you're our man. And I think maybe he didn't get that trust and investment in him, and therefore he, lost confidence and lost his way a little bit. And we also got to respect the fact that he's still relatively young in his journey as a bowler, even though he has represented the country, but he's only going to get better.
It's actually also very interesting. We were huge fans of Avesh Khan as he was developing as an IPL bowler. So there have been a few cases of IPL stars, young stars, getting an opportunity to play for India in the IPL in the season gone by. There's Deepak Hooda as well. Brilliant last year, played for India, did well, then fell off. Arshdeep Singh, his travails with Indian cricket, I think has made him a slightly different bowler. I mean, there was one game I was watching him and we did an analysis as well, where last season Arshdeep obviously had not been exposed to different oppositions and to the world. The rest of the world was simpler in the way he bowled. This season, if you notice, there has been a lot of variations that he's tried, maybe from all the experiences that he had at the international level, which has not always been good. He's had some tough matches on the big stage, and that may have made him a slightly different bowler. Happens to a lot of people. So next season, I expect him to sort of understand what's happened and what is his basic strength, and where is Arshdeep Singh at his best when he does what he did for the last so many years in the IPL. I thought just too many variations.
And the other thing that I observed with him is that, and this, young bowlers can fall into the trap of this, is that they change their mindset and start looking to take wickets instead of just sticking to the process of taking wickets. So they're looking for the outcome, looking, right, at that purple cap, if I can pick up another 2 today, and how am I going to pick up that 2? Oh yeah, I'll go for that slower ball, when the timing of that slower ball is not right. The Yorker's the better option, or the hard length's the better option. That can also derail someone's campaign.
And the scrutiny is so intense. I just remember my first class days, my domestic first class days used to be, playing for India, first exposure, coming back. And I would have made the same mistake thinking, I'm an international batter, but nobody's watching. I mean, the scanner is on these people so much that you're talking about Arshdeep Singh just losing his, his basic bowling a little bit, and here we are talking about it because it's such a high profile event. So sometimes it can be tough, and you've got to feel for all these young players.
Got to be resilient.
Yeah, so, yeah, if it was a less low profile event, we wouldn't be talking about it, because these are all marginal things, and he's going to bounce back because he's quality and he's got everything going for him. But this is what I think may have happened this season.
Oh, brilliant. I feel like I've been doing the entire IPL with you now. You've given me such an exhaustive analysis today.
Means basically you've talked too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe somewhere else happened.
No. I always welcome your detailed answers. Thank you very much to Sanjay Manjrekar and Tom Moody. We leave it there. We have a look at the points table though. To tell us a sad story if you're a Rajasthan fan. At .148, they have not better their net run rate to that of Bangalore's. They leave themselves now to the fate of firstly having both Hyderabad and Gujarat beating Mumbai and Bangalore respectively on Sunday by significant enough margins to ensure that the net run rate doesn't come in. Maybe then they'll get a backdoor entry into that fourth spot. Right. It's unlikely, shouldn't happen, won't happen. Punjab season comes to an end. That's pretty much it. 1 weekend to go. Thank you very much, Sanjay Manjrekar. You are off to Delhi in just a few hours from now. Yeah, so you could have helped yourself with an early finish, but
that's
now
why the longer answer. I didn't want to sleep.
You can go straight to the airport now, I feel.
That's the plan.
Yeah. Tom, you're going nowhere. I'll see you tomorrow, 3 o'clock.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, and we look forward to your company as well on Visit Saudi Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout. Download the mobile app to get the updated scenarios version as we go into the final weekend with 3 spots up for grabs in the playoff race. So, all to talk about and all to look forward to. Join us on Saturday afternoon. Bye-bye.